This is the first time I'll be looking at a short-lived, minor mercenary faction. The Killer Bees do not have a long history, nor do they have much love amongst mech commanders due to how obscure they are. However, their history does tie into the 21st Centauri Lancers, my previous video. Thus, this is the rare opportunity to talk about a minor faction like this. The emblem of the Killer Bees is a shield with 3 bees upon it. It doesn't scream intimidation, but it is a fine design. As a fair majority of their equipment is based around aircraft, I expect they had some great paint jobs for the VTOL and aerospace fighters. As for the unit colors, there isn't much information about their chosen color scheme, but it is likely they would use black and yellow, or red and yellow, to match their emblem colors. The history of the Killer Bees is short, and even their one short story isn't very focused upon them. Despite the fact this unit is mostly a historical footnote, I will include a timestamp for those who want to skip spoilers from the source books. The Killer Bee mercenary unit came together in 3025 by pilots from Cal Boeing. Thus, unlike most mercenary teams, they were not formed around mechs, but instead aircraft. Their first assignment was with the Federated Suns as support for raids against the Capellan Confederation. They mainly performed recon as well as hit-and-run raids. After that, they took contract with the Lyran Commonwealth and did similar work along the Draconis Combine border. The Killer Bees took part in the Andurien Secession, working with the Magistry of Canopus to assist in training their forces. During the conflict, they also assisted in planetary raids as backup for Magistry forces. However, in 3034, the Killer Bees used a clause in their contract to end their work with the Magistry. They left the planet of Andermax, leaving the local forces to face the heavy battle mech team from McCarron's Armored Cavalry 5th Regiment, Rob's Renegades. The Andermax forces were crushed due to a lack of reinforcements coming from the Magistry. If the Killer Bees had stayed to offer support, it is likely they would have been destroyed as well. It was after this that the Killer Bees took another contract with the Lyran Commonwealth. They participated in the War of 39, where they ran raids against the Draconis Combine. One of their biggest gains during the war was capturing an Invader-class jump ship. However, the Killer Bees would soon learn that maintaining a jump ship was a very expensive job, and they would nearly go bankrupt due to having such a large financial burden. The next job was with the Free Rasahag Republic. They weren't treated well, but it was consistent work, as they hunted pirates from the periphery. In 3048, the Bees took a contract with Irian Technologies to do guard duty. This put the Killer Bees in the Free Worlds League during the clan invasion, keeping them safe from the heavy losses that many incurred during the early days of the war. After the war had ended, the Killer Bees were hired by the Draconis Combine and Comstar to be part of the Explorer Corps in the mission to locate the clan homeworlds. They held this contract until Operation BULLDOG ended. After that, the contract was picked up by the Second Star League, who took the Bees in to be the foundation of an SLDF team in 3055. As the Blakist Wars broke out, the Killer Bees were busy battling pirates in the periphery once again. This time, they were fighting supposed remnants of Clan Smoke Jaguar. When they got news of the word of Blake's attack on Tukiad, they mobilized to assist due to having friends and family on that planet. When they arrived, they found over 200 refugees, more than a Leopard dropship could carry. The Killer Bees used infantry and light mechs to run distraction attacks, while the refugees got evacuated via the dropship, leaving those troops behind to assist the remaining forces on Tukiad. The refugees that were rescued included the Killer Bee dependents and wounded members of the 21st Centauri Lancers. 2 months later, the Killer Bees returned to Tukiad to locate other survivors based on information provided by the wounded Lancers. This involved using one of their ships, the Galwasp, to distract Blakist forces, and their other dropship, Hornet's Nest, to make a hot landing and quickly take the survivors on ship and get out before they could get overwhelmed by the Word of Blake forces. This mission picked up survivors from the Comm Guards, 21st Centauri Lancers, and the team that stayed behind during the first operation. In August 3068, a third attempt was made to recover survivors of Tukyid. However, the attempt was thwarted by the word of Blake. Despite that, the Bees kept fighting on. They did recon work for Comstar, as well as run raids into the Word of Blake Protectorate. By 3070, the Bees were having personnel issues, as they couldn't recruit new pilots fast enough to replace their losses. During the search for new pilots, they worked out a deal with the 21st Centauri Lancers, and the remaining Killer Bees joined that mercenary unit. This ends the history of the Killer Bee mercenaries, but they would continue to fight as part of the Lancers for years to come. Due to the short history of this unit, there aren't that many people that need to be discussed amongst their important staff. Ernst Murdoch, the first and only commander of the unit, who served until they fused with the 21st Centauri Lancers. He was an ace pilot who used everything from scoutcraft up to dropships. He even petitioned to pilot a Comstar battlecruiser, but was denied by the presenter Marshal. Due to being a skilled pilot, he used any aircraft he could get his hands on effectively. John Smith. Captain Smith was the XO of the unit, and the key commander that stayed behind on Tukyid in order to assist with the evacuation of refugees. A brave man who worked with the infantry, but was likely the overall ground commander of the Killer Bee mercenaries. The Killer Bees are not known for their mech forces. However, they did have some light mechs they used to assist in scouting or raid operations. At their height, they had one company of light mechs, 2 platoons of infantry, a squadron of aerospace fighters, as well as a number of ground vehicles and VTOL aircraft. Their VTOL forces made up over half of the total equipment they used, making them an interesting unit to deploy in battle. Sadly, there is only one short story about this short-lived unit. It's called Commitment, and it was published as part of BattleCore, but that service is now defunct, and as of the posting of this video, it has not been republished in any of the BattleCore anthologies, thus making this a very difficult short story to find. Beyond that, there are several source books that make note of this mercenary team. It should also be noted, as of 3072, the Killer Bees joined up with the 21st Centauri Lancers, and that any further stories or sources about them will be an aspect of the long-lived mercenary unit. An interesting point I skipped in the history section is that there is a strange continuity gaffe with the Killer Bees caused by their only short story. According to the story, they had a jump ship called Queen Bee, but sourcebooks claim they didn't get a jump ship until the War of 39. 5 years after the story. In addition to that, they have a Leopard-class dropship called Honeybee, but according to sourcebook information, they had 2 Leopard dropships called the Gal Wasp and Hornet's Nest. Either the Honeybee was renamed or it was decommissioned and replaced. None of this should impact how a game is played, but it is an oddity that this small unit has such contradictions. The Killer Bees are an interesting lot. Most mech commanders will probably not do aircraft-focused battles, but with the new battle support rules introduced in the Mercenaries box set, that might change. While this unit is short-lived, they did have a few moments of importance to history, and even if they are now part of the 21st Centauri Lancers, they still live on as scouts and fighter jocks. Speaking of which, I usually don't include aerospace or VTOL units when making the battle mech segments of these videos, as they come up so rarely in games. However, if you are building a 21st Centauri Lancers force, then you may consider getting a few black and yellow VTOL or aerospace units in your forces. It was nice doing a smaller video this time around. Next time, I will be going into another group from the original 5 mercenary teams. Until then, let me know in the comments what factions you'd like me to discuss next. To all those who subscribed recently, thank you so much. I hope your mech forces see nothing but victory. Until next time, I'll see you at the tavern.